In the just over 2 years since I started this business, I've now worked with over 500 police officers, paramedics, and other shift workers. And having worked with such a quantity of people, it's given me a unique insight into the real struggles that most shift workers have when it comes to maintaining their health and fitness around a shift pattern, around having a family, around other illnesses, maybe pre-existing musculoskeletal issues, whether that's injuries or diseases, you name it, we've worked with someone who's one of these things. Because of that, I've had a chance to really get into the depths of the struggles of these people, of the things that they find easy, the things that they find hard, indicators of things when things are going well that you wouldn't necessarily think about, and everything in between. The amount of data we've built up in the last 2 years is quite frankly staggering. So what I've done is I've looked into this data, and I'm going to come back to you now with 5 lessons that I've learned from going through this data and working with over 500 people in the last 2 years. So let's dive in. Each week, every single one of our clients goes onto our online coaching platform and fills out a check-in form. And we ask them 30 to 40 different questions around how the week has been, ask them to do a bit of self-analysis, look at what went well, what could have gone better. And then me and the coaches will look through these check-ins and come back to them with some things that we can work on next week to make sure that next week is as good as it can be. And one of the first things that I look at every single week is a question called mobile phone usage. And my clients need to say how many hours that week they use their mobile phone for. And I can tell from that how good the week has been. If someone says 0 to 2 hours, it's going to have been a really good week. If it's 2 to 4, might be okay. If it's over 4, I know for a fact that other metrics inside the check-in are not going to be where they need to be. So let's look into why that is and why mobile phone usage might seem like a relatively harmless pastime to be doing a lot, but fundamentally it tells a lot about your personality, it tells a lot about your mental health and physical health and what else you've been doing in that time. Number one, for me, when people are using their phone nowadays, they're probably doom scrolling. They're most likely going to be watching TikTok, going to be watching Instagram, watching videos that are simply not benefiting their life and are there merely as a crutch to avoid going and doing other hard things like, for example, a walk, a gym, a meal prep, seeing friends, tidying the house, getting out of bed. And it's used as a crutch, as a way to make them feel better in that moment. But the problem is it becomes very addictive. Your brain gets used to something called quick dopamine, which is every time you flick a reel on Instagram or TikTok, it gives you a little boost of this thing called dopamine, which is the body's reward hormone. And it feels really good. That's why it's there for, to make you feel good. But the problem is these companies have hijacked how easy it is to get dopamine. And when you get dopamine from your phone and you just swiping through a video, you feel good. You feel really good. But then after about 2 hours, 3 hours, you feel crap because you've been sat down in the same place, with your neck in the same position, looking down in a kind of sad state. You haven't achieved anything, and your brain's then overloaded with dopamine, and it doesn't want any more dopamine, so your ability to go out and do hard things is massively reduced. So that alone is a good indicator. And secondly, it's all the things that you've not been doing whilst you've been on your phone. So if you're using your phone for 4 to 6 hours a day, let's say for example it's a day on shift, do an early shift, and you were up at 5:30, ready to get for work for 7, you're at work till 5, maybe you use your phone for like half an hour during the day, maybe like looking up an address or messaging your parents or your family or whatever, and then you get home. If you're then using your phone for another 5 hours, let's say you're home for 6 o'clock, you go to bed at 11, that's almost every other waking hour of the day you're not at work, you use your phone. There's no way you've been to the gym, there's no way you've been and got your steps in, there's no way you've been and socialised, there's no way you've probably done any meal prepping, you probably had some convenience food and you go to bed and you feel shit the next day. So the mobile phone usages, for those reasons alone, are massive. And if you look at the science behind mobile phone usage, there is a correlative effect between mobile phone usage and a proportionate decrease in mental health. And it's for those reasons. It's not the phone itself that causes the issues. It's the things that you're not doing while you're on your phone that then cause you to feel sad. So yeah, good kind of little actionable takeaway from this clip is go and look on your settings on your phone. Look how many hours a day you're spending on it. If you're spending over 4, you've probably got work to do. If you're 5 to 6 or even 7, way too much, and you probably know that already. If you're sub 3, then you're in a really good place. Second point is, if you cannot balance, you cannot sustain. How many people, yourself included, do you know that started on a weight loss journey or a bulking phase in the gym, and they were really, really solid for like 2 weeks, and they absolutely nailed it, and they stayed in the calorie deficit, and they went and got their steps in every day, and they didn't have any bad food, they didn't drink, and they made loads of progress. and then all of a sudden it got very hard, or they got ill, or they went on holiday, and it all comes tumbling down. Because when you have an all or nothing mindset, it only takes one bad day to make you feel like it's finished, it's done. But it means that you're looking at health and fitness in the wrong way. Health and fitness needs to be looked at as a lifetime, as an entire lifestyle change that's going to last you for the rest of your life. Because if you look at it as I want to lose 10 kilos in the shortest possible time, and it goes badly for a few weeks or a few days, you'll fall off. You have to look at the long term, and every time if you have 5 good days and then one bad day, it's so easy to get fixated on that one bad day and think, oh, I can't do it anymore, it's too hard. Zoom out, look at the bigger picture. We had 5 good days and then one bad day. So that's 5 steps forward, 1 step back. As a net, that's 4 steps forward. That's fantastic. You don't need to be perfect all of the time. The rule we operate inside the Fit for Duty blueprint is 80% good, 20% not good. And that might seem like, actually, that doesn't sound too difficult. 8 days need to be good, and 2 days can be pretty crap. But we've still made a net gain of 8 days out of those 10. So in your 10-day shift pattern, if you had 2 disastrous days, let's say we had an early where you're off 3 hours late, and you had a rest day where you went out to see family and you ended up having a few drinks, and you basically wiped out all your calorie deficit from that one day. Never mind, because we had 8 good days to work on. So you can have these bad days. And when I talk about bad days, they don't necessarily need to be terrible. They need to be that you just didn't make progress on that day. Because you've got to think about this long term. If you want to start a journey that's sustainable, it needs to allow for the fact that you might be ill, you might be off late from work. Because if it doesn't, what's the point in ever starting it? If you plan your journey around being a perfect week every single time, I'll tell you what, as a shift worker, as a police officer, as a paramedic, you will never have a perfect week. You will never have that dream week where you're off on time every day, you have perfect sleep. It just doesn't happen. So we need to have a plan in place that doesn't need you to be perfect every single day. It just needs you to be pretty good most days. And that is actually not that hard to achieve. Once you start to get into the swing of it and you've actually got a plan written for you around training, around nutrition, around habits and lifestyle, that you look at it like, yeah, seems all right actually, great. Because if you can do that for a year compared to somebody that had a perfect plan for 2 weeks and then didn't do it again, who's going to make more progress? The person that made the slow and steady progress, not the person that tried to race to the finish. The tortoise and the hare is a very good example here. With fitness, it truly is slow and steady wins the race. Long-term sustainability will beat short-term rapid results every single time. Now, I'm not saying that you can't have sustainable and rapid results. You see some of the people on the page dropping 27 kilos in 27 weeks and 23 kilos in 26 weeks. That is possible with the right plan. It's not possible for everybody, but you can do it. You just got to make sure that the plan is good. Because if your plan is good, it ain't going to work. And if you don't have a plan, forget it. Don't even bother starting, because you're going to get a few weeks in and you'll soon discover that it just doesn't work. It's like trying to go from London to Glasgow. You've not got a map. You've not got a sat nav. You've not got any money. You've not got a car or a train ticket. How the hell do you ever expect to get there? What's your plan? Don't know. Brilliant. Well, honestly, that is how many people start their fitness journeys in that way, with no set plan. And it comes tumbling down very quickly. It will crush your motivation, it will crush your desire to do it again. You form an identity of somebody that doesn't know what they're doing when it comes to health and fitness, and you will stop doing it. And you'll then look for other these quick, short-term solutions, whether that's some crazy quick fix diet or Manjaro or one of these weight loss jabs, which will work in the short term, but then you come off them and guess what? All the weight piles on. Spoke to like 3 people in the last week on phone calls that did exactly that, and now they want a long-term solution. Those weight loss jobs are not a long-term solution unless you're going to do a hell of a lot of work on the side when you take them, which most people unfortunately do not. Number 3 is most people do not train hard enough in the gym to see real results. And number 3 is most people do not train hard enough in the gym to see real results. Now, inside the Fit for Duty Blueprint, we use a strength training methodology called reps in reserve. So when we're getting our clients to perform an exercise, like say for example a squat, we will give them something like 4 sets or 5 reps with 2 reps in reserve. Now what reps in reserve is a way for you to calculate how much weight to use so that you can make progress, work hard, but not work so hard that you're absolutely goosed for the second set. So for example, if you had like 100 kilos on the bar and you did 5 reps and you felt you could have done 2 more, like if I put a gun to your head and say, right, how many reps could you do there? Like rep out until you collapse. If it was 7, then that was, when you stop at 5, that means that there was 2 reps in reserve. Now, that's like something that we'd start a client off on to get them used to just having weight on the bar. So they're working hard, but they're not working so hard that they're going to be really tired for the next set. Because if you went to failure on the first set, say for example, it was 5 reps and you did 5 and then you couldn't have done another one, by the next set you won't be able to do 5. You've worked too hard too soon, and it's then going to be hard enough to get sufficient volume in to be able to get the muscle growth and the strength increases that we want to see. So therefore, we set it to 2 when we start, and we generally move to 1 as the client gets more advanced. Now, the problem is that it sounds great in theory, but a lot of people actually underestimate how many more reps they could have done. They get to 5, it was quite hard, they think, yeah, maybe could have done 2 more. The reality is, and if you look at a lot of studies, I know some tests that we've done, is that a lot of the time they could have done 4, maybe 5 reps more. So whilst reps in reserve is really important and it's really effective, it's only effective when you actually understand how many more reps you can do. One way to gauge how hard that you're actually capable of working in the gym is to sometimes go to failure on an exercise. And I mean go to the point where you're like, you're about to go down for a rep and you're not quite sure if you're going to make that. That's the kind of level you need to be working at in the gym to really affect change. Like with most things, your body doesn't want to change. It's very reluctant to change size, change shape, change your discipline. You have to really force these things to happen. You have to really push it hard to make it grow, to make it drop body fat. It doesn't want to change. And when the gym, if you are not walking out of the gym feeling like you worked really, really hard, you probably didn't work hard enough. If you're stopping when it got quite hard, you're probably working nowhere near the level you need to be at to affect change. So that's why we occasionally get clients who haven't been seeing the most amount of strength gains to actually do a test on the reps in reserve, and a lot of the time they're not working hard enough. The problem with online coaching is that you cannot exactly know how hard your client is working. You can't see them physically in person every single rep. Obviously you can give them a hell of a lot of other support around that, but it's always important to make sure that you are pushing as hard as you can, and you walk away from an exercise thinking, I probably couldn't have done much more on that, if at all. And if you genuinely know that because you know where your point of failure is, then it's going to make it a lot easier to make more progress in the gym, to understand how hard you need to be working. Because if you're not working hard enough, for example, if you're watching this and you go to the gym consistently, you're not really seeing any gains, are you really working hard enough? Are you timing your rest periods? Are you keeping them to like 1 minute, maybe 1:30 max on heavy stuff? If you're not timing your rest periods and you wait until you're recovered, you're probably not getting enough intensity, you're probably not getting enough volume, and you're probably also not pushing hard enough when it comes to the strength basis. Yeah, work harder in the gym, you'll almost certainly see more results. And in number 4 is those who have a push and a pull make more progress. Right, let me explain that. A push is something that you want to get towards. Let's say, for example, you are now overweight and you've got a wedding coming up in 6 months' time. Right, you've got something that is pushing, that you want to push towards to achieve. I want to look great in my suit. I want to look great in my dress. Cool, we've got something to push forward to. The pull is something that you want to pull away from. That is having poor mental health, getting called fat at work, your kid calling you fat. Something along those lines that you've been in the past and you don't want to have anymore. So there's an analogy, it's kind of a test that some scientists did where they put a rat in a tube and they starved the rat. Not very ethical, I know, but it was to test in the name of science. And what they did was the rat's in a tube, they opened one end and they wafted in the smell of cheese. And they had a spring attached to the rat's tail to gauge how hard it was pulling to get out of the tube. And when the starved rat was smelling the tube, it would pull pretty hard to get to that cheese because it really needed it. They then ran the experiment again and they put the smell of the cheese in from the front and they opened the back and they wafted in the smell of a cat. And guess what? The rat pulled harder because it was pulling away from something it didn't want to got by, and it also pulled hard because it wanted the cheese. So it worked additionally hard in that moment. Now, if I look at my best clients, for example, you might have seen James on the page. He's a traffic officer down in Essex. Drops 27 kilos in 27 weeks. That is an absurd amount of weight to lose. Yes, he was ultra disciplined. Yes, he has been on it nearly every single day. He's had a couple of weeks where he didn't actually lose any weight, but because he worked so hard around it to get back to it, he got back to it. Now, James had 2 things when we started working together that he really wanted to work on. First of all, his mental health was poor. He was having McDonald's every single day for breakfast. Crazy, right? Spending what? How much is McDonald's breakfast? 5 quid, 6 quid, 7? I don't know. That's a lot, right? And that's going to destroy your gut microbiome, reduce your serotonin levels, and give you really poor mental health, as well as being quite overweight. So he wanted to get away from that because he knew that was not serving him. Secondly, he's got a young lad he wanted to be a role model for. He knew at the time he wasn't being a role model. So not only did he want to get away from having poor mental health, He wanted to be a role model for his kids. So he's got two things there that really motivate him and keep him disciplined to work hard. Having those two things is so important. And there's been some weeks where his mental health has had a bit of a relapse, but we've reminded him of his goals. We've reminded him of how much progress he's made. Bang, back to it. Sometimes you just need a reminder. That's one example. Lindsay, you might have seen her on the page, dropped 20 kilos, went from looking in really not in good shape to looking like a sportswear model. Looks amazing, absolutely incredible. Two things that she wanted to work on. Number one was she just had two kids and really struggled to adapt around that. And she just hated how she looked. She wanted to get away from looking how she looked and feeling how she felt. And secondly, she was worried that she wasn't achieving her potential at work as a police officer. So she has something that she wanted to really push towards and something she really wanted to pull away from. Massive amount of motivation, massive amount of results. And then Colin, similar to James, he was probably a good 25, 30 kilos overweight. He's been on the page recently as well. He's ended up dropping 20 kilos. Hated how he looked. Hated it. Really didn't want to look like that anymore. Secondly, he wanted to become a father. He didn't want to be the fat dad that can't look after his kids properly, that can't chase his kids around on the field, being a role model for his kids. So he had two things to work towards. Again, one of the clients who made the most amount of progress. Guess what? He had two things. He had a push and a pull. So for you to really make progress on the things that you want to achieve, is you need to have the push, you need to have the pull. Figure out something that you really don't want to be, and figure out something that you really do. Write them down, record them, remind yourself of them, because there'll be some weeks where you're struggling. If you've got a little reminder of your goals, that can be the difference between having a bad week and having a really good week. And number 5, you can determine how well your set is going to go by the time that you go to bed on your rest days. So let's dive into that. So if, for example, you're on a 6-on-4 off shift pattern and you come off that second night shift and you normally go to bed quite at a reasonable time because you're so tired, which is kind of normal. But the biggest determinant of your success for the next set is what time you're going to bed on rest days 2, 3, and 4. So what we need to do is we need to kind of look forward and work backwards from that. So what time does your alarm go off for when you're first early? If that is 5:30 in the morning, we want to be aiming for a minimum of 8 hours sleep. Because when you've got something called first early syndrome, which every shift worker gets, it's the anxiety of missing your alarm, the anxiety of going back into work, and typically it's because you've gone to bed too late on your rest days and you're lying in bed trying to go to sleep, but you can't because you're simply not tired. So let's say, for example, it's 5:30, therefore you'd set an alarm for 9 p.m. on rest days 2, 3, and 4, with a reminder to get into bed in the next half an hour. We want to be going to bed about 9:30 to get ready for that 5:30 alarm and establish a bedtime routine of going to bed for a sleep 10 p.m. latest. That's not unreasonable. Not many good things happen in the world after 10 p.m. at night. So you need to make sure that that becomes a really core component of your fitness program. Because if you go to bed at, say, 9:30 and you wake up at 5:30, even if you sleep for like 9 hours on your rest days, that's great. I don't mind that at all. Wake up at kind of 6:30. When you wake up for that first early, you feel great. You feel you've had 8 hours sleep of restful sleep. And if you wake up feeling rested, not stressed, not anxious, before your first set, for the first shift of your first set, you've got better energy levels. You've got less inclination to want to eat junk food, less inclination to want to neck loads of caffeine. Because if you have a full day where you've had 4 hours sleep because you had first early syndrome, you went to bed at 1 o'clock in the morning, you woke up at 5:30 having woken up once thinking you missed your alarm, you feel terrible, absolutely terrible. You'll probably skip breakfast because your body's just in this state of, I don't know what you call it, like just complete disarray. You can't even think about that. All you think about is staying in bed till the last second, jumping out, having a shower, getting your kit on, running out the door, getting in your car, getting to work, kitting up, getting ready for briefing and hoping you're not late. That is a very common occurrence for most police officers, I'm going to say. If you've gone to bed early, you wake up feeling normal, you can get out of bed 20 minutes earlier. You can have a nutritious breakfast. You maybe don't need to have a coffee's still great, but then you don't need to have it throughout the rest of the day. Because if you have caffeine, let's say, before you leave the house, 1 in briefing, and 1 mid-morning, you have the mid-afternoon crash, you have another one, that's 4 sources of caffeine you've had throughout the day. And I guarantee by the time you're going to sleep at night, a lot of that caffeine is still in your system, still blocking your adenosine receptors, which makes it a lot harder to fall asleep. And when you do fall asleep, the quality of the sleep that you're getting is considerably poorer. So there you go. It's kind of, let's wind back, let's look at what we can do to prepare for this shift ahead of time. And a lot of people won't do this, but if you are genuinely serious about nailing shift work, about progressing in your career, about having optimal health, optimal performance in the gym and at work, You need to start doing things like this, because if you don't, you're going to be on the back foot. And the people that are doing this, like my clients, those are going to be breezing past you at work. They'll be the ones that when you go for promotion will be getting it. Those are the ones that will be getting better scores on their exams. Those are the ones that will be ready for shift work, ready for kind of stresses of shift work before they've even started the job. You have to start doing things now that the kind of better quality officers are doing all of the time. Not wait until you get there. You do it now, because if you do it now, you've established that routine. And if you do start going to bed at a normal time on your rest days, I promise you, I can't emphasize enough how much better you will feel all of the time. And you won't want to go back to staying up till 1 o'clock in the morning, doom scrolling on your phone every single night of your rest days, worried that you're going to miss out on some crappy kitten meme or some shitty other police meme or something in that time, because I promise you you're not. The only thing you're missing out on is having a good day the next day. So yeah, there we are. That is the 5 things. Hopefully you found some use out of those. Hopefully you've got some actionable tips that you can take away from this podcast. Guys, if you found this useful, I'd really appreciate if you'd give me a thumbs up. And if you could subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And I'll see you guys next week.